Hey guys, Wade Willis here for Wade's Weeb Reviews, coming here to talk to you guys today about Jujutsu Kaisen, and the episode is Girl of Steel, episode 3 for this season. This episode, obviously in the title, it's focusing on the female main protagonist in the story, which is Kugisaki Nobura. This is probably the most in-depth look at a female character I've seen in a shonen right from the start. So I was really surprised how in-depth they went into her, and I really like her as a character a lot. She is by far my favorite character in the show now. And before I go any further, guys, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. I'm going to be doing videos about this show and a bunch of other seasonal anime shows the whole season. So, and if you like the video, please leave a like. Not only do we get in depth into Kugisaki's background, but I liked how they showed her personality in this. She's very erratic, and I guess some people would maybe classify her as like a tsundere, but she doesn't fit that normal tsundere role to me. She's just like, I don't know, she's a lot funnier to me than the normal tsundere type. So I kind of like, she is a bit full of herself. There's a guy looking for a girl to model for him for this job, and then she goes up to him and is like, what about me? And then he doesn't want to say anything, and she's like, about it being a mom, is like, just say it. I don't know, I really like her a lot. And right from the start, she mentions someone named Saori and is like, hey, I'm in Tokyo now. And they dove into that a lot more than I expected in the first episode with a new character. But again, and I'll touch into Saori a lot more at the end of the episode. She meets up with the two other first years, and probably my favorite thing, she looks at Yuji and starts like judging him, and she's like, this guy looks like he probably picked his boogers and ate them when he was a little kid. And I'm like, that's kind of a fair assessment, and is really fucking funny. But I just loved that part, and her little one-liners were great. I think she's going to add a lot to the show. Not only are her one-liners great, but her banter back and forth with Yuji, and like the times where they kind of like agree on things, and then when they're bickering back and forth, it's going to be a really fun dynamic. And it's interesting in this show, they're able to really balance the humor and darkness really well. I haven't seen many shows that can go back and forth, because this is, I would consider it a comedy too, because it is really funny, and I'm really in shock of how well they're balancing the humor and the darkness. I haven't really seen it done as well as this very often, if at all. So their sensei sends them off into essentially a field test into this building where there's curses in there. And Yuji's new. He's super careful. And it's almost like when you see the rookie cop who's like overcompensated, and he's like peeking every door, and he's going in like kind of like a spy trying to sneak around. And I thought it was pretty funny. And you just see, and the contrast to Kugisaki, who's just like very confident in herself, and she's just strutting up, walking right past him. And eventually she's just like, dude, we need to split up. And he's worried about it being dangerous, and then she tells him like, this is why no girls like you. And he's so thrown off. He's like, how does she know that? And it's like, well, she has like a sixth sense, obviously. We also get some good world building in this episode too, and we find out that the curses are actually stronger and more intelligent in places where like the population is higher and more dense. So the sensei is kind of like mentioning about this, like, okay, Kugisaki's from the country, like the curses she's seen don't have anything on the stuff she's going to see in Tokyo. So that was kind of important in this episode. It might be important in the next episode. I hope I hope it doesn't end like I think it's going to end in the next episode. I'm just going to say. Now, when she pulls out like the hammer and nails and like hits him across, that is such a cool technique. I'm like, okay, not only do I like her, like she is like cute even though she's like kind of bitchy. Personality's hilarious, but she's a badass with such a unique fighting style. I am very excited for the future of this show, how they're making everyone so different, their skills and everything. So that was super cool. She hits the dude like this dummy thing in the head that was a curse, and like immediately I think my like cheesy line, because his head explodes, and like I'm like, oh, it had a splitting headache, which is stupid, but then she's like nailed it. Like so stupid but hilarious. She finds this little kid, and he's like doesn't even want to really talk to her, and she's like, oh, I guess it is true that like kids don't warm up to beautiful women. And I'm just like, of course she said that. It's so ridiculous. But again, she is killing it in the one-liners in this episode. I've not seen a character like come in and just ball out, one, just fighting style, and two, just being that funny in recent memory. And then we see how these curses are actually more intelligent than the ones that she's probably used to, because this curse goes in, grabs the kid, and is taking him hostage, which shows intelligence. And she's extremely thrown off by this because it's kind of a weak curse, but it knows this and it's using the kid as a hostage, and she's extremely thrown off by this. She doesn't know what to do. She's struggling with it, and then finally is going to like surrender to save the kid. And then Yuji comes in and just straight yeets the wall, punches it, misses the curse, but then eventually like chops off the curse's hand with this cursed sword that his sensei gave him. Before like that whole thing, Kugisaki thought that she was gonna die, and she's like, oh, I would have liked to see Saori one more time. We get into this really interesting backstory where this girl named Saori moved into Kugisaki's country town. I think we're gonna learn a lot more about Kugisaki's family, because I'm assuming that there was something wrong in her family life, because it seemed like Saori almost took her in as like a daughter or like younger sister, because they were like hanging out a lot, and she was just like infatuated with her and like loves her. So I'm very unsure of how I think we're gonna learn about her family, because sure, this girl could have been special to her, and I'm gonna assume that Kugisaki's family life, there's something really messed up about it too. It goes back to the curse. She asks Yuji, like, hey, like throw that chopped off hand to me, and she throws like a straw doll on it, and the little kid and Yuji are like so creeped out because it's like creepy witchcraft, and she nails it, kills the curse as it's trying to escape out the window. So badass. And again, like if she would have just had the hammer and nail thing, like using it like almost like Misako Mikoto doing the railgun thing, I would have been cool with it. I would have thought it's cool. But then she has the straw doll thing. I'm like, all right, I'm incredibly intrigued to see like what else she has in store for us. Then we get into more into Saori, and find out that Saori, who is moved to the town from Tokyo, was ostracized. The people from the town were scared of her and vandalized her car, were horrible to her, and she ended up leaving. And Kugisaki says that if she would have stayed in that village, she'd be as good as dead. again, I think we're going to learn a lot more about her village and backstory. But for one episode, for not the main character, I was incredibly impressed how in depth they went. And for sure, I think this is the best like initial backstory I've ever seen for a female character in a like shonen. At least to my knowledge, I'm sure there are others that people in the comments will let me know. And if you do know of some, please let me know. But just in my memory, generally they really focus on the guy characters, and then maybe later on they'll start to delve into a female character. Yuji asks her like, why'd you choose the school, and she tells him like, because I hate the countryside and I want to live in Tokyo, and this will help me be able to live here and afford it. And he's like, you're willing to like risk your life for that? And she's just like, yeah, like not a huge deal. Then they go into at the end of the episode, there's this guy, I believe he's in prison, and he's commenting that this curse has appeared above the prison yard, and it's like a really creepy looking curse, like in a womb, that even people who aren't jujutsu users, they are able to see it too. And then they say that they had to have 3 people from Jujutsu Tech, like first years, go in to deal with it, and one of them died. Now, again, I haven't read the manga, but I've watched enough anime, I'm like, man, they did do a lot of backstory of Kugisaki. I'm like, I really hope that they didn't do that backstory and then kill her off in the next episode, because all of us who have seen shonens know that like when there's like flashbacks and someone's in a battle, not a good sign for that person. They're probably gonna die. So I'm a bit worried about that, because I think her personality adds a lot to the show. Maybe it's going to appear that someone dies and comes back somehow. It's so early. It's going to be episode 4. Maybe this battle lasts for a few, but that is very quick to kill off someone who seems like a main character. Did you guys like this episode too? This is really sticking out to me of like the new shows, head and shoulders above the rest. Like I think the new Higurashi, I'm enjoying it more, but again, that's like kind of a sequel remake thing. But yeah, I think it had very high expectations, and I think it's nailing everything, pun intended. It's doing everything top tier. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think.